twilight hours, the voices sing tales of hope and heartbreak.
Welcome, everyone, to Our Stories, Our Members, episode number 7. My name is Ryan Zellner. I'm the CEO of the International Society for Music Education. And with us today is the one and only, the infamous or famous Dr. Gareth Dillon Smith. Thank you for joining us today, Gareth. Pleased to
Oh, my
have you
pleasure.
on our little podcast here.
No, thanks for having me. It's nice to see you. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's good to catch up. We've known each other for quite a few years now. So I don't know what it's been, maybe under 10, I think, but it seems
Well,
like forever.
I got an email from you the first time in 2014. I think you were inviting me to the Modern Band Summit or the Rock Fest.
Yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, your name had popped up on a list of a meta study of popular music, and I was like, who are these people kind of deal? And I reached out to a lot of professors and a lot of positive responses. So, but we always start off with the first question here of just how did you get started in music?
Uh, Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering how to answer this. So many different paths in, right? My parents were not, wouldn't consider themselves musicians, but my dad was always he sang barbershop, which no one in England really does. But I didn't know this. So he sang barbershop kind of semi-professionally, and had grown up as a chorister, and but stopped the barbershop fairly early on. In my childhood, but kind of had a massive record collection. He was always listening to music and always kind of drawing me to listen to music. So I kind of picked up that music was important, in a life. And my both my parents encouraged me to learn instruments. We did the recorder in school, which I liked more than most people. Then I had like a 10-year relationship with the clarinet, which I never loved, but I did enjoy the craft piece of it, like trying to get better at it, like figuring out how to get better at the clarinet and make it sound the way I wanted. But what really lit the spark for me was I joined a Boys Brigade marching band in 1987. I was 11 years old, and that must have been 88. But anyway, um, playing a snare drum for the first time, I was like, oh my goodness, this is extraordinary. You hit it and it sounds like that. And I still get the same visceral thrill. I'm a drummer now, professionally, if you couldn't tell from my shirt. But I still get that same excitement from playing drums. Every time I see them, hear them, they thrill me. So at age 11, that kicked off a relationship with drums. I started taking lessons they had at the school and played in rock bands. Growing up, my parents weirdly let me play. Looking back, it seems like a very strange decision. We used to have rock band rehearsals in my bedroom, throughout my teen years in a very small house. Um, yeah, so I guess that was it, surrounded by music or the idea of, music being a good idea. And my parents never discouraged me from making music. I was going to orchestras and I was in a wind band for years growing up, a lot of rock band things. And I started playing folk music because I met people who played folk music and I played a little bit of guitar. So I just love playing music, always have. And it's talking about it now, it lights me up. Like I just love playing music with other people, especially.
I think a couple comments on this. I think one, you strike for that the passion of the pursuit, right? And I found that as a trumpet player, it's you just it's like trying to get better and trying to like there's always that next level you can get to. And then I ended up teaching a percussion ensemble of all things when I was a high school band director. And that's when you start picking up a little bit of drumming chops. And I found it so cathartic to play drums.
Uh,
Like it was really difficult after hitting something for a period of time to be angry about anything. You let all that sort of frustration and the sort of rhythmic nature of it, I guess, but brought it out, and it just became a really really interesting perspective. But I also know that there's a lot of educators that as soon as they start teaching, they don't continue to play,
well,
whether
you're
it's a
right.
time thing or a passion thing or whatever. But you're clearly
Yeah.
not one of those. I mean, you're always performing, you're always playing, and you're always trying, from what I've seen, new things, like more avant-garde things. You had that series where you're playing in the woods on different,
Right.
woodland elements. No creatures though, but
No, 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 that they escape too quickly.
know.
No, it's yeah, the kind of physical piece is really interesting because people have often said to me, "Oh, I bet you like to get your frustration out on the drums." And no, I don't because I can't play angrily. There's no pleasure in that. But like I think to what you just said, it's the kind of ch physical channeling of if it's emotions or energy, really. I'm a very energetic guy, right? I'm kind of hyperactive, I suppose. And but yeah, drumming's been a great place to meditate in a sense. I never thought of it as meditation, but it's a great place to sort of reset, recalibrate in a way. And
Mhm.
and I just yeah, a lot of people, I think, I work in higher education now, and We have teaching, we have scholarship, and those are really time consuming. And it is hard to find the time to also play. But for me, it's never been a question of maybe I'll find time to play or not. It just I have to. Like, it feels core to my being. When the days or sometimes weeks when I don't get to play, it affects me physically, and I feel very sad. Which sounds
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like a luxury, but I just playing drums are my medium, right? But I have to make music because it's so important. It's a way of being in the world for me. I think I'm better at the drums than I am in conversation, or it's a better version of me. So
Mhm.
I can't give it up. It hasn't been like it's definitely impacted. I feel like there's a balance of or a perpetual imbalance of I haven't done this because I did that, but it's a sanctuary and a kind of solace for me, as well as a place of joy. But I keep coming back to playing.
Yeah, I think your path is interesting, and I do want to move on to the next question because I feel like I could talk to you for a couple days on this. But I also think there's this point of burnout, right? I know I experienced as a trumpet player where you play under so many situations for so long, and then you just like, I just need to put it down. I need to put it
Right.
down for a while and then come back to it. And I think there are people that experience that, or sometimes when you're even choosing those instruments, you sort of had a very organic path to making music, but in a typical quote unquote scenario in the US, you would choose your instrument very early and then you would track on that instrument through a number of grades. And that decision you made in fourth grade is now the
Mm.
decision that you carry with you for 20 or 30 years, not thinking, you're still going to be doing this 30 years from now when you're, 8, 9, 10 years old to that space. So sometimes what I see in your music making is that you're always branching out to like the next thing. You always seem to take on a new challenge or a new level or something. And I find that really fascinating. But I also do want to get into what's your current role right now from this little boy that started drumming to no puns intended, little boy who started drumming to your role at a university.
Yeah, so I'm assistant professor of music, music education at Boston University. So most of my job right now is reading and reviewing doctoral dissertations for DMA candidates in our online music education program, which is kind of think that's another piece of why playing drums is kind of so important in my life is because my day job is staring at a laptop a lot and thinking. And the drums is a place, I mean, not that I don't think at the drums, but it's a very different kind of activity. And I'm not, I think I've it took me a really long time to find a job where I fitted in, I think socially and I think kind of, I don't know, ontologically in the sense of who am I? And I've always had a fascination for words and I love writing and being really critical. And in a lot of places, like criticizing things all the time doesn't go over very well at all. No one wants you to be a pedant. But it turns out now that's the skill I get paid for. So I get to be pedantic and critical and think for a living and write for a living and read for a living. And it's kind of remarkable to me that got to be the case. And at the same time, I'm, rewarded for pursuing drums as a kind of a sideline in my job, but it's very much core to who I am. And I feel like it supports my job. And a lot of my research is about drumming and things. So I'm not sure if that answers the question actually, but yeah, I'm a BU.
And that's the short version, right?
Hmm.
What I find oftentimes with musicians in particular is that they have their job and then they have something that they're really passionate about or like a passion project they're working on. Clearly, you're passionate about drums, but is there something else that's like your passion thing right now?
Something other than drums. I'd like to tell you about my musical passion project, maybe. But no, I just, if I'm not, yeah, when I have spare time, I like to go for long hikes in the woods. Um, and they don't have to be the woods, but I live in a very wooded area in the northeast of the US, so I can't go for a stroll in the desert. So I love hiking. I love being outdoors, and I crave the outdoors. Again, maybe that's kind of an antidote in the sense to my job is a very indoor job, right? It's reading and it's on a laptop and it's emails and it's Zoom calls. So I crave being outdoors, and most Sundays I'll go for a long hike. And in the week, if I can get the chance to, do some things in the evening and take the afternoon to go for a walk. I love being outdoors. But I grew up by the sea, so I love, yeah, hiking, running sometimes. Although I'd sustained an injury recently, so I run less. But I just love being outdoors. And sometimes, as you mentioned, I take sticks.
Well, I like that you're always trying to achieve this balance, which I think is fascinating. I think that's one of the things with academics especially is that you can get tied to your work so deeply that you push everything else in your life aside and you don't find that balance or try to, whether it's the physical or emotional or what have you. But I like that you're always striving to do that. I concur. The idea of like just working behind we're just not meant to do that as humans, right? It's not you
Yeah.
weren't meant to sit all day and just stare at a screen, for hours and hours and hours. But yeah, so I think that's great that you're finding that sort of balance into it. And with all the time, you still manage to fit in the International Society for Music Education. So I'd like to go back to what was your first experience with ISME?
Um, so I heard about ISME from my the professor who mentored me through my master's thesis or dissertation, as it was called in England. Um, Colin Durrant, who's a choral conductor, he's just about to retire actually from decades of conducting the Imperial College Choir in London, and I found him remarkably insightful and helpful. Um, and so he told me about ISME. He mentioned there'd been a conference the year prior in Kuala Lumpur, which I think was in 2006. So yeah, no, maybe it was 2008. Anyway, no, it was 2006. The conference, first time I went to ISME was in 2008 when it was in Bologna in Italy, and which was not exactly local for someone in England at the time, but it was easy to get to. It was like an hour and a half flight or something and fairly affordable. And I didn't really know anything about conferences. Like I didn't know why I would go to one, but it was sort of the first one I'd heard about. So it was the International Society for Music Education, and I figured, well, I'm doing stuff about music education. I just got my master's in it, and international sounds good. What's not to like? And I've never been to Italy, so I went to the conference and was instantly like, I mean, I enjoy traveling anyway. Like, I always enjoy new experiences, as you pointed out, with musical things. But I was instantly hooked because it gave context to the stuff I was doing. Not that I needed to contextualize my research. I mean, it helped me understand what a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of the world I'm involved in and the kind of breadth and of scholarship and languages and perspectives that there are. And it was really exciting to me. But the reason I started doing a PhD, I think, was because I realized that there was maybe a future in playing with ideas, that this was something you could do as a for a living. And but going to ISME and seeing the kind of breadth of all these ideas people had and where they come from with their ideas and how they're informed by their context and things I couldn't think of because I'm not from Greece or Australia or the US. Like it blew my mind. So going to that first conference in 2008 on the recommendation of Colin Durrant. Um, and then yeah, it's a biennial conference, and so I was hooked to go to the next one. It made sense to me, and so I'm not sure I would have said I found community in the first one, but very quickly got a sense. No, I very early on got a sense that I belonged. No one was. That was another thing I really liked about ISME. I think was yeah, no one questioned me being there, and I think a lot of contexts I've been in, I kind of wondered why I was there. But it is me. Everyone was just like, "Oh, great, welcome." What's your research? Why are you here? What do you do? Like, genuinely interested. I think that was maybe that's part of what I loved about it was everyone was curious in a really healthy way. Really, because why would you go to an international conference unless you want to, like, experience that kind of breadth of
Right.
perspective? So I really, that was what was really cool. I think several things were really cool, but that people were interested in me. I was interested in them, and it was like, oh, everyone wants to share and understand and celebrate, what we're doing, and that was something very new for me, I think.
Yeah, and I think, for being around the music world for a bunch of years, it's always important the connections that you make. And I think
Yeah.
that gets underestimated. I wouldn't have thought of this early on, right? Early in my career or like as a college student, I wouldn't have thought it was always something to do. Like I get my degree and then I go to a conference and present or what have you. And then you think you're going to move on. But then you start realizing that, you know, we're all connected. We're only a couple steps away from everyone else, and those connections are what are going to serve you a lifetime. I mean, we've connected at various points along our careers, just over a short period of time, let alone the thousands of people that come out for the conferences. And one of the things
Mm,
that struck me being at Helsinki was just the community aspect of it. and
Hmm.
just figuring out, one was the community and how everybody seemed to interact and get along and make things work. And then the side of it was just, I think, at least from my perspective, we can really get in our own echo chamber as far as music and music education.
Yeah.
And in the U.S., I taught band for years, and I understand the standard system, and you start just looking at things from another perspective and questioning, okay, why are we doing this way? Does this make sense? And what sort of success have people found doing it other ways? And I think that becomes so important to not only become just a better researcher, but a better academic and teacher, right? Is that you
Yeah.
start gaining those different perspectives to those sort of honest conversations into it. So
Well, I
what's
just,
been your most
oh, sorry, I
oh
just
god
the community piece and the connection that's been huge for me because especially when I started doing my PhD in 2007, which is when Colin recommended I go to ISME, and I was doing it on my own essentially. It was me and a library card and my mentor Lucy Green.
right.
Um, so I went to conferences to find community because I didn't know if or how any of what I was talking about made any sense. So it was through connections at this conference and some others, but particularly ISME that, yeah, I got a sense of like the other people that was my community. Those were my connections. It helped make sense of what I was doing. Anyway, sorry, you were asking me another
No,
question.
no, no. I just wanted to, you've been with ISME now for 18 years, give or take. That's a long time. But do you have a favorite moment from the conferences?
Can I have two?
You absolutely.
So I think, yeah, going back to Bologna actually, 2008, I went to, yeah, I found out about this. It was it's a commission now, but it was the hang on the forum on instrumental and vocal teaching, as it was at the time, or the forum on instrumental teaching. And we weren't allowed to be a commission yet. Um, and this was a pre-conference, like one day meeting. And at the time, I was my day job was teaching people to play drums, and I gave a paper at that. And instantly, Graham Bartle, who's been in ISME for almost 100 years, I think, and that's not an exaggeration, he really has. He came up to me after my presentation and said, "Yeah, that's fascinating, really interested." And that blew my mind to start with. Like, I'm like, why is this septuagenarian interested in what I have to say? Like, I've done one thing ever, and he's suddenly interested. And he asked me to be if I'd like to be involved in the leadership of this new forum, and that seemed extraordinary to me because I'm not particularly exceptional, right? I'm just someone talking about what I was doing. And so I was very quickly brought into this, I suppose a leadership role with that forum and got to see that forum established officially within ISME. And then it was repeated every couple of years at the conference and how the work changed and who we brought in. And so that was really important for me because it told me that maybe what I was talking about was worth listening to, and um, and it gave us a chance. That's when I got the sense of what you could do if you were on a committee for something or you were leading something, because suddenly you've got a platform and a name and a visibility, and you can draw other people in and help other people feel like they've got community and they can be valued. And that was amazing to me. I will forever be thankful to Graham for noticing me and asking me to help out with the committee. And Helena Gaunt went on to chair that. So anyway, that was extraordinary. And I loved the kind of the embrace and the welcome and the instant acceptance. It was beautiful. But I think if I had to pick one most memorable moment from ISME, it was in 2016. Well, 2016 in Glasgow was the sort of pinnacle of this moment. Sheila Woodward, the then president, had invited me to establish the ISME Popular Music SIG. Its full title, the International Society for Music Education, Popular Music Education Special Interest Group. So a mouthful. But it's a special interest group about popular music education. So I got to form a committee. I brought 6 colleagues from around the world. There had to be one person from every continent, at least, which was awesome. And then we had our first meeting in Glasgow, and not the first meeting of the committee, the first meeting of the interest group, there was standing room only. There were people couldn't get in the door. All the chairs were taken. There were people lined up around the room because they were interested in what popular music education was or could be, and that was amazing. It seemed really cool to me that people were interested in the kind of what popular music education, what is that? Who knows? People are there to find out. And it was around the same time that I'd was starting the Journal of Popular Music Education, which we founded the following year, but it was in process, obviously, in 2016. And that was very exciting to me because, well, actually, I'd already run 3 conferences I'd organized on my own in London in 2010, what is it, 2010, 2012, 2014, about popular music education. But when ISME had their own special interest group about it, I didn't need to run any more conferences on my own because why would I need a popular music education conference when ISME suddenly has got it as part of the international conference? That felt extraordinary. I was like, oh my goodness, this is now it's a real thing. Like this isn't just me organizing a little thing in my backyard. Suddenly ISME cares about this, and that's continued. I think it's in year 9 of that special interest group. Friends and colleagues of mine, and now people I don't know, which is awesome. People I've never heard of are involved in the special interest group because it's grown and so I think that moment of Sheila Woodward trusting me to start a thing and then meeting people, curating the committee, watching it become a thing and seeing it flourish now that was extraordinary. So I think a recurring theme I'm hearing myself say actually is people trusting me to do things with ISME. And that's been really kind and yeah, wonderful to see things come to fruition that way.
Well, it's always wonderful when somebody takes the time to think about you and like just a couple words from Graham or a couple words from Sheila, and all of a sudden it's like changed the course of your history, right? It
100%.
changed your trajectory through that. And I think I've asked this question now on 7 different podcasts, and not one person has said it was the time I presented on.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's always been about these connections or an experience or something along those lines. It's never been about the presentation itself. It always like transcends that. And when we're looking at the conference and the connections, and it strikes me too that, you know, ISME itself is very broad in what it does, but the commissions have more finite sort of goals, you know, that they're focusing on within that trust, whether it's early childhood music education or any of the others. And then you have the SIGs that even further specialize in areas, right? So there's always opportunities, I think, to get involved or to find people that are of like a like or similar mindset to you. And it's interesting. I've been to a lot of conferences, and the conferences were always about connections, always about
Mm.
like not only what I could learn, but also about connections so I can get there. And I think when I was younger, I didn't think about it that way, right? I didn't think like, oh, I'm going there to make connections and tie this all together. I was like, I'm going there just to present, do this thing, and then I'm going to leave. And then maybe I'll experience the city a little bit and I'm out. But you're missing out on those opportunities that can open up the doorways for the rest of your life or set a
That's what I
path
put
or
my
a
work
course
into,
to
right?
direction.
I'm going to present at ISME, so I'm spending certainly earlier on in my career, I'm spending days and weeks getting my 20-minute presentation together. Like
Right.
this is my big day, right? I get to speak to the International Society for Music Education about this thing I've been doing. But yeah, then when you get there, of course, that's important. And I still take time over my presentations, but it's in the context of understanding why, and the why is
Right.
connection and interaction and community. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting to see at Helsinki, it was exciting to see like I hate to frame it this way because it's ageist, but like the more senior in their career and the people that are junior in the career. We have a lot of or just in the advent of their career, right?
I
That
think
we have a lot of
established scholars
students.
is the term.
It's, that sounds better. But to thinking about, you know, the younger academics coming in and people that are on this path, I think you can feel like you're on the hamster wheel, that I'm just taking these courses, I'm writing this dissertation, and you're just as another step in the process and not thinking about your sort of life after. And what I found, at least from my interactions from musicians and academics from all around the world, they tend to be very open and just very friendly and willing to answer questions and come up and just say hello. You know, it's a very open, I think, experience for many people.
Yeah, well, I think that's yeah, I agree, and I think there's a certain kind of people who go to ISME right into these conferences because you know, when I was chairing the special interest group, there were people we wanted to invite to speak, and they wouldn't come because they weren't getting a particular fee or because it didn't fit their brand or whatever. So that kind of leaves some people out. But I think the people who do show up at a conference basically in their spare time, you know, okay, and most people pay their own way to get there. So it's like the people who want to do that, who want to spend 7, 10 days of their lives at this event, that there's a certain kind of people who they're inquisitive, they're curious, they're looking for community, they want to connect, they want to share. They're not going there to grandstand. People are there, I think, to learn from one another and connect with one another.
Yeah, and it's a way to also further yourself, right? Further yourself as
Oh, yeah.
a person, an academic, a teacher, what have you, because you're always gonna have these connections and these skills, and you're learning new things about the presentations. I think it's just an awesome opportunity for people to come out and do all of those things into it. And we're certainly very pleased that you've continued with ISME and contributed to the scholarly work of music and music education. But you've had a pretty long career, I think, at this point, through various segments in music and teaching responsibilities. What sort of advice do you have for people that are either looking into getting like into music teaching, or they want to get into academia? They want to. What advice would you give that young
Oh,
person? Stay away.
so,
That's what.
so much. No, not stay away. I wouldn't say that. Um, I So I think, yeah, remember that it's about people. As you said, we come to this later, I think, a lot of the time. And it's always definitely about people. Yes, it's about music and it's about expertise and it's about pedagogical, savoir-faire, but also it's definitely about people. So pay attention to people, nurture the relationships. And or if you find you're in the wrong place because of a bad fit, work somewhere else if you can. I think so people are really important. And I think it's important to pace oneself. I haven't done this the best at some points in my career. People use the phrase it's a marathon, not a sprint. Which is helpful. It is, right? I think, if you think you're interested in music and teaching and scholarship, or any one of those, like it's pace yourself. You don't have to do everything this week. That being said, there is, it's some if you're interested in something or passionate about it, it's worth getting a thing done. It's worth putting the energy in because it is its own reward. Um, but I think pacing oneself is important because you mentioned burnout earlier, and in a sense, I think music teaching and the music industry and academia actually can all be really toxic. Not can be, they are all really toxic. Um, in terms of, well, I'll speak about scholarship for a second. In academia, it's where I work, there's no ceiling to the amount I'm allowed to produce. No one's going to say to me, "Oh, Gareth, you seem to have published a lot. Maybe you need a week off, or like maybe you should take a beat." It's constant production, right? And I think the music industry similarly expects a lot from people, and if you burn out, well, bad luck. So I think the same. You said with being a band teacher as well, band director. There's just a lot can be expected of us. So I think trying to yes, give what you need to the job and to the career, but also, go for a walk in the woods and take the time and remember that if you can't do it this year, maybe you can do it next year. And maybe if you miss a deadline for a book submission, the publisher might give you another 6 months. Like it's not everything is a panic. I've discovered. Um, so I would say that. But I think more um I think something else that I've discovered in academia that was a surprise to me and shouldn't have been, uh, was people are really interested in what you have to say. By the time you've done a piece of research, you're the only one who's done it. That's your specialism. No one else in the world has read the literature you've read, gathered the data you've gathered, worked where you've worked, talked to the participants you have, done the survey you did. So you've become like this global expert on this tiny niche. And again, people who show up at conferences and read journals definitely care about your work. So I think I definitely still have trouble with imposter syndrome, and kind of walking tall about what I've done. But like once you've done a project like that, you're the one who's done this. So there's without it's dangerous then to slip into kind of an arrogance about it. But I think understanding that you've done something cool and interesting, and that people will inherently be interested in it because academics are a curious bunch. So again, coming back to something I said about going to ISME, this is true across conferences, but I think especially I found it at ISME, is people's humility and curiosity about my work and one another's work. I've experienced it for my own work, but I see it a lot. People are genuinely interested. Like big names whose work I've read, right? Or, you've heard about them and then you go, oh my goodness, that's so and so over there. And you can just have a conversation with them because the reason they're there during their summer vacation time is because they want to connect with people and learn about new things. So yeah, I think and understand, kind of get a sense of your value is probably important. I could go on for days feel free to respond. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I think that was one of the interesting things from the past conference is that people that I knew would ask me to introduce them to, whatever scholar or expert. And I was like, why don't they just go? There's that almost like an awe syndrome sometimes. Like you
Yeah.
see their name printed so much or referenced your work. So I thought that was a sort of almost like they're celebrities, that you don't want to approach them or say the wrong thing or anything like that. What struck me about your comments was just looking at this idea of burnout, finding that passion, working over a period of time, but also I think there's that respect there for the uniqueness of what you've done, right?
Hmm.
Getting a doctorate and doing the dissertation, it is tough. It's a rigorous, long process, and I think you respect that process and you
Yeah.
you understand that they've generated something that is unique to them and something that they'd be proud of. So I think there's that level. It's kind of like when I see a trumpet player, I don't see it on the surface. I know all the work and effort that went in to
Right.
get that person to where they are. I'm just not judging them and saying, "Oh, it's a nice sound" or whatever. And even if I don't like their playing from a personal perspective, still understand that they've put in a lot of work to get there. So you have that sort of respect that's in place for that. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting process to go through, and I just hope that people continue to build those bridges with one another throughout their lives with different people. I've tried to do that myself and like don't burn bridges. I mean, sometimes
Mhm.
it just happens, but those connections and bridge, you just don't know when you're going to come back to them in life and when they're going to be important, or even when you're just going to work with them again or meet them again or what have you. But I thank you for all of your wise words and wisdom, Gareth. And do you have any final words before we close out the podcast?
Oh, final words. I don't think so. Well, yes, I'm going to make a plug.
I could clip it right there and just say
There
I
you go.
don't think
That's
so.
it. He was going to make a plug. Whoop, there you go. No, you mentioned a passion project earlier, and a musical passion project of mine. The passion project right now is playing drums with Beethoven and Mozart compositions. With Ostina Lee playing piano, we have Beethoven's Pathétique coming out as an album. It's video and audio coming out on Friday, May 2nd. So we're excited about that, and it's absolutely my favorite place to be right now. After most of my gigs, I'm playing to a click track and beating the crap out of the drums, and this is subtle and dynamic and yeah. Anyway, that's where my heart right now is in playing
Yeah.
Beethoven on the drums.
Interesting, interesting. Well, we can certainly share it through the podcast. I'll put a link up for everyone in the description so they can
Oh,
take a look and check out Gareth's work. Gareth, I wanted to thank you so much for joining us on our stories, our members, episode number 7. And we're just appreciative of everything that you're doing for music education and the society.
well, that's kind. Well, you too. I mean, thank you for you're leading the organization, and I think ISME is an extraordinary place. It's kind of hard to put your finger on who it is or what it is because it changes. But I think the idea, it was conceived out of UNESCO, and it's a beautiful organization, I think, and with a beautiful goal about connection. And the goodness knows we need more of that in the world. It's
Absolutely.
what
Yeah.
better way
You
than through
can't do
music.
it it's tough through a screen. It's tough to connect with people. And I think it will always be that way.
Hmm.
Well, thank you again. Appreciate it. And we're going to sign off.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.